following video is brought to you by the Boston Sports Entertainment Network. Please consider liking and subscribing for more Boston sports content.
Fly down the right field line toward the pesky pole, and that ball is gone! Home run! Carlos Narvaez in a game, swinging, there's a drive. Abreu sucks that one way in the corner, and she's gone! His 12th of the year. 0 for 2 tonight. Hit a drive down the right field line toward the pesky pole, and that is going to be a home run! And a fly down the right field line. That one heading toward the stands. That's going to be a fair ball, and that ball is gone. It's out of here. He tucked it in there, and he walks it off. Straight on Rafaela with a home run. A 2-run shot, and the Red Sox steal a win here.
Welcome to another episode of the Pesky Podcast. I'm your host, The Rit. And we are here with the National League Trade Deadline Special. Man, here we go. For hour one, we're going to go around starting with Don and then, working our way across to introduce yourself and the team that you cover.
All right. Don Helbig, Cincinnati Reds.
I'm Conrado Pasquale, representing the San Francisco Giants.
I'm Crawley, representing the Cubs.
The typical Chicago people just jump in the line, right? The Chicago people just jump in the line, right? I'm Anthony Sanfilippo. I cover the Philadelphia Phillies.
Eli Sussman from Fish on First, covering the Miami Marlins.
And I'm Al Scott. I cover the Padres.
So, yeah, man, we got a wide variety of people, wide variety of teams, wide variety of divisions right here. Buyers, sellers, and, let's start with Anthony and the Phillies. You guys are a half game back of the division, and you guys are 3 games up in the wild card. So, talk to us a little bit about the Phillies, what you think they're going to be doing, what their needs are coming to the trade deadline.
Well, they are all in, gentlemen. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The Phillies view themselves, even though they're a half game behind the Mets at the moment, they view themselves as one of the teams that have a shot to win the World Series this year. They have flaws, just like every other team in Major League Baseball has flaws. If you look around the league and look at those standings, it's like everybody's within – there's like 10 teams within 3 or 4 games of each other at the top of baseball, and the Phillies are one of them. Their flaws, though, right now, their big needs are bullpen pieces, and more than one, some which may be rectified internally, but I think that's going to be the primary target at the trade deadline next week. And secondarily, I think that the option that they would like to get is another right-handed bat, preferably in the outfield, because their outfield right now is not very good productivity-wise. Across that outfield, you got Nick Castellanos, who's okay, but just okay. And then they have 2 platoons going in both left and center field, neither of which inspire. With Brandon Marsh, Johan Rojas in center, and Max Kepler, and currently Otto Kemp, who's a cute story, but nevertheless a guy who's spent most of his career in the minors, undrafted free agent. So I would say that they need a fielder, a right-handed hitting one, to supplement what you have coming from the other side with Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper.
Yeah, definitely coming from dealing Dave Dombrowski, you guys are in for, a wild trade deadline, because Dave, once he has something in his mind, he gets exactly what he wants, no matter what the cost. I know that there are some trade rumors out there with the Red Sox and Phillies with possible Jarren Duran. What are those? Are you hearing those, Anthony? And is there any real truth to them?
Well, I think that Dombrowski, he's going to check in on everything, right? I mean, he's a guy who talks to every team all the time. He's going to get, find out who's available, what the price tags are for everybody. So I am certain that he has spoken with the Boston Red Sox, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were other people that he's talked to the Red Sox about as well, not just Jarren Duran. I think ultimately, though, if they're going to go for an outfielder, it's going to be a right-handed hitting guy, more of a corner outfielder type. I know Durant can play the corner, but I'm not 100% sure that that's their primary target. I think that there are other teams that they're probably looking at. I would look at the American League Central. I think there's a couple teams there in Minnesota and Cleveland that they're kind of keeping their eyeballs on to see if they decide to become sellers here as we approach the deadline. I also think that they might look to the Los Angeles Angels. Taylor Ward is an interesting bat that might be somebody that could fit nicely in that spot with the power that he's shown this year. The Phillies just played the Angels right before they played Boston, lost 2 out of 3 in that series, and the Angels smoked the ball all over Citizens Bank Park. Taylor Ward was a great audition if he's available, with a couple of home runs and a couple doubles. So, I think that's again, I think he's talking to everybody, but I don't think the Red Sox are the primary target for them right now.
Okay. Don, what's going on, man? What are you hearing from the Reds, buyers, sellers? You guys are right there, 2.5 games out of the wild card.
The Reds are in an interesting situation because, they're probably going to be a little bit of both. They know that if they don't want to really give up some really good prospects just to make the postseason and be out. They're looking at, 2026 and beyond. So they don't really want to, go all in for this year, knowing that it's an uphill battle to get through a lot of those other teams. But at the same time, you got a chance to get in and anything can happen. So I think they're going to do a little bit of both. They've got some guys that are in expiring contracts that would be of interest to a number of teams. Starting pitcher Nick Martinez is somebody that would fit in well. Toronto, Boston, Philadelphia, a lot of teams like that would like a Nick Martinez in the bullpen. Emilio Pagan has been the closer. He's been really good, but again, a guy in an expiring contract, he could bring something back. They got Suter is a guy that a lot of teams would want. They've got Barlow's been really good. So they've got some guys in the bullpen that can help some teams. Position-wise, there's not really a lot that I think a lot of teams would be interested in. Maybe, they could trade Austin Hayes, get something back for him. But for the most part, I think the guys that, what they really need, they need some more production out of third base. They need another outfield bat. They've been tied to Duran with Boston. That name keeps coming up. Ward from the Angels keeps coming up. So any of those guys could be in play for the Reds. So it would not be a surprise if they really went, either direction. There's been talk about a reunion with Suarez, bringing him back. He'd be popular, with the fans, fit in the clubhouse. But again, a 2-month rental for him. But the guys, they're not going to give up the crown jewels. They're not going to give up Sal Stewart. They're not going to give up, Cam Collier, Chase Petty. He's a guy that, they might throw him out there, make him available. They got another left-hander, Adam Serwinski is another guy that could draw interest. They got Ty Floyd. They've got Luke Holman. So they've got some guys that would be able to get some of those rentals if they wanted to go that direction. But it's going to be an interesting time for them because they're, close enough to be in the hunt. They haven't made the postseason or won a series for almost 30 years. So that would be exciting for the fans if they were to do that. But at the same time, you don't want to give up players that can help you in 2026 and beyond.
Okay. The Giants right there, 1.5 games out. They already made so far the biggest splash, this season with the Rafael Devers trade. Seeing him over there at first base is looking good. I'm just happy to see him start being the Devers that we knew in Boston. He had 2 shots, 2 home runs the other day. So what else is the Giants looking for right now?
Yeah, I mean, the Giants, they're in a really interesting position, specifically with where they are in the standings and also under, this new front office leadership, specifically headed by Buster Posey. For better or for worse, I was talking about this literally just this morning with some of my friends. For better or for worse, I think Buster kind of has a little Brian Sabian in him, which basically is if he feels that they can be competitive, they're buyers. You know what I'm saying? So given that the Giants were buoyed by that really hot start to the season, they had a nice hot finish going into the deadline or into the All-Star break. coming out of the All-Star break, they're kind of like leaking oil, but these last couple of games, they kind of showed signs of life again. It's like these other teams, you could see them going in either direction, but I feel like they're more inclined to be buyers. We'll see how this next series goes. But in terms of what can they do, I mean, obviously having Rafi now playing first base was meant specifically to try to juice the lineup, because I think everyone here knows that the Giants, they struggle to score runs, right? And the bottom of the lineup, I don't know if I'm being harsh or being generous. I'd say like the bottom of the order is probably like, I'd say there's at least 3 automatic outs there, on a game-to-game basis. So I think ideally putting Rafi in allows, at first base, allows Wilmer Flores to be DH. I still think they could upgrade at DH. I think they're probably looking at an upgrade in the outfield. Mike Yastrzemski has been good, but I think they're showing a willingness to take on a little bit of long-term money, just because, like, obviously, let's be real. They haven't had the most success bringing in elite talent, via free agency. So that's why I think fans definitely respect the moves Buster Posey's made. Like, hey, right? Like, if we can't just sign him outright, let's trade, right? And that would just think of it as the contract we would have offered them anyway. I actually was going to say they probably do need another relief pitcher, even though I think the Giants are pretty deep. I think their bullpen is pretty deep. However, all credit to Justin Verlander, but like he is looking his age. I think there is a little bit more ambiguity of what he can give the team if they are going to make the postseason. I think Hayden Birdsong, while they're still very high on him, his recent struggles where he's actually been optioned to try to work through some of those inconsistencies with like his placement and everything like that. I think they really could be motivated to look for another starting pitcher. So you start to see a lot of like some, notable names being floated out in the market. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants look that way. You saw like some, reports about Seth Lugo potentially being available. Like I could definitely see the Giants looking in that direction, because again, I think while they may not necessarily see themselves winning it all this year, I think the organization is a little tired of just kind of kicking the can down the road, right? Like you kind of keep talking about, let's set ourselves up for this year or the next year or the next year, and it's never coming because you're just in this perpetual cycle of setting themselves up. So I think they really want to lay the framework where, fine, let's be competitive. Let's make ourselves more appealing in free agency, and then let's have an even stronger baseline heading into 2026.
Okay. And I got to check out this article that you guys just posted 2 hours ago, Ellie, about one of your 2 pitchers that everybody I'm sure is checking in on, Alcantara.
Yeah, with Sandy, it has been a confusing year for Sandy Alcantara coming back from Tommy John surgery, where the expectations were as high as they could be coming out of spring training, looked all the way back to what he used to be before his injury. And instead, until his previous start, he had the highest ERA of any starting pitcher in baseball. It took him 7 shutout innings his last time out to get down to a 6.66 ERA on the year, where he's not missing bats the way he used to. He had control issues early in the year that have come and gone. And overall, just not putting away hitters and going even the way that he was used to. One made him the Cy Young winner back in 2022. So he's that's a confusing guy, because he is certainly the most recognizable player on the Marlins. He's been that rare Marlin who's actually been with the team now parts of 8 seasons, and they're now reaching this inflection point where he just in time, he had that awesome start against the Padres, and that overall he's been trending in the right direction. He's the highest paid player on a team that doesn't spend any money, and it's a complicated spot where it's weighing the risk and reward versus possibly trading him right now, and there's still significant interest in him, but not getting what you thought you would originally in terms of a prospect return, versus waiting it out, getting through the year, hoping he gets closer to being the vintage version of himself, and then trying again in the offseason. So that is, I'm sure that's a name that a lot of contenders are interested in, but maybe not one that they're willing to give up a whole lot to get. And that's going to be my understanding is it's basically a coin flip in terms of whether they're going to get a deal done, whether they're going to get a prospect package that they're comfortable with in order to make that deal and turn over the rotation to younger guys, because they do feel really good, the Marlins, about what the next wave of starters they have, led by Yuri Perez and Edward Cabrera. He's another guy that could be traded at this deadline, but he still has so many years of control. He's finally putting it together. They've done a good job through the years in terms of churning out one nasty arm after the other. And it's a question about whether they could get along without Sandy's leadership, and trying to just weigh the risk versus reward in terms of waiting for him to get back on track. So that's going to be the spiciest name for a team that has been playing a lot better than expected. They're only a couple games back of the Reds. They're only a couple games back of other teams that are still in the mix for wildcard spot, even if the front office was fully intended to sell coming into the year. Nobody told the players on the field in terms of what it is that their plan was, because all the players are stepping up and kind of overachieving despite being the youngest team in baseball outside of Sandy. So they're in a weird spot as we come down to the deadline.
Yeah, I know one name, and he's on the 60-day IL right now, is Ryan Weathers. I loved what he was doing before he went on the IL, and that's another young, talented arm you guys have there in Miami.
Yeah, Weathers there was so much excitement about him coming into the year, throwing harder than ever. He had lost a lot of weight as well after being a little bit hefty his previous years. He got into the best shape of his life. You always hear that cliche. And he's just had a couple unfortunate injuries where he's coming back later in the year, but not in a situation where he's going to be a trade candidate coming off an extended stint out with a lat strain. So it's going to be about smaller pieces that they're going to be selling outside of Sandy and potentially Edward Cabrera. It's going to be a lot of spare parts. They have relievers who are doing well despite having very limited name recognition. Anthony Bender is somebody that has been around for a few years. He's the most experienced guy. He's got a sub-2 ERA. He'll draw some interest. They have too many catchers that they know what to do with. So maybe Nick Fortes, their veteran catcher, is going to be somebody that they try to find a new home for in order to make room for all these rookies. And they have their top hitting position player prospect is a catcher right now, and Joe Mack. So they're looking to make room for him to come through. But they kind of dominated last year's trade deadline. The Marlins made 8 trades during the week leading up to the 2024 deadline. They made 6 deals on deadline day itself last year. I think it's going to be quieter this time just because they're so young. They have all these guys that they're pre-arbitration eligible. They're not making any money. There's no rush to deal them if they're actually good big leaguers right now. They're basically an extension of prospects. So I think it's going to be on the relatively quiet side, but this is a pretty creative front office, so you never really know exactly what to expect.
Yeah, I know personally the Red Sox, more along the lines of me, I will love a Nick Fortes just for the fact is at least he has more production than what Connor Wong's giving us right now. Connor Wong is absolutely horrible. He, 1 RBI, and it's not even a hit that he gave. He is 0 for, I think, before the Phillies series, 0 for 30 in runners in scoring position. So that is absolutely horrible.
And he didn't play against the Phillies, right?
So he's still 0 for 30. Well, I honestly don't know if it got worse.
No, you had Narvaez, with 2 catchers interferences that cost him 2 games, and then he hits the game-winning home run in extra innings last night. So it's wild 3 games for Carlos Narvaez.
Yeah, a lot of people, we give out our W Series Energizer Award, and it goes to like the person that uplifted the team and stuff. And we were going back and forth. Some people were saying Narvaez, some were saying Romy Gonzalez, and I was like, I cannot give it to Narvaez when he cost us 2 games. Like, just because he won 1 doesn't mean it evens out because he cost us 2. So, but Crawley, what about you and the Cubs coming up? What are you guys doing?
Did I get any credit for predicting that Cubs take 2 out of 3 from Boston?
You get absolutely a lot of credit for that. You also get credit. I think we break even though with the Ceddanne Rafaela and the
PCA.
PCA comparison. So I think we break even on that one.
Yeah, I mean, the reason the Cubs were able to beat Boston is because of the pitching you guys. And the reason we just lost the series to the Royals is because of starting pitching. I mean, like every contender, you're looking for starting pitching, but when the Cubs lost Justin Steele at the beginning of the year, you're basically putting duct tape over the problem. They've tried a lot of different things. It hasn't worked out. So I think with the Cubs, they have a good 1-2 punch in Shota Imanaga and Matthew Boyd. But then once those guys are gone, you got a bunch of 4s and 5s, and that's not going to cut it in the postseason. You can't expect Colin Ray to be up there. Cade Horton's a rookie. Yeah, Ben Brown, who Anthony might remember, Ben Brown was a prospect with the Phillies. They've given him chance after chance, and he just can't put it together. So right now, I mean, a lot of names that you hear are all either starting pitchers or third basemen. That's what the Cubs are really looking forward. Obviously, that everyone's looking at Arizona to see what they do. But the trouble is nobody's really out of it. Now, the Cubs GM, Jed Hoyer, the president of baseball ops, Jed Hoyer, is on the final year of his contract. He's in his walk year. So, I mean, does he care? Does he throw it all in? Are they how many top 10 prospects is it going to take to get Eugenio Suarez?
Yeah, and looking, I think a perfect matchup for you is the Diamondbacks, Crowley, because you also got Merrill Kelly, Zach Gallen. It's just what are you guys willing to give up to get those 1-year rentals to make that push, because you're leading in the wild card and you're only a game out of the division.
Yeah, if you've been watching, Milwaukee's been going nuts, and yeah, Arizona. But unfortunately, a lot of teams I think want that same Merrill Kelly and Eugenio Suarez package. So that's the tough thing right now.
Yeah. So let's go to Al Scott, the San Diego Padres, 4.5 behind the Dodgers, and they are they got the last wild card spot as of right now. So what are you guys looking to do? I know that you guys are linked with us, with Jarren Duran. Also,
well, with AJ Preller, the Padres are always going to be linked to everyone. Since he took over in 2014, he's been arguably the most aggressive GM in baseball. And, if anytime there's any remote possibility of a star being possibly traded, AJ Preller is going to be there at the forefront asking, what can I do to get him on the Padres? Even if they have no chance, he's going to beat around the bush. Eli brought up Sandy. Padres and the Marlins have made 3 trades between the last 2 deadlines. Obviously, the Ryan Weathers trade, Luis Arraez. Last year, they got Tanner Scott and Brian Hoeing. The Marlins got back some pitching prospects. Those 2 teams have found a nice niche. There is some smoke to the Jarren Duran. I'm not a huge fan of Duran. I thought he had a really good year last year. I thought he overperformed. This year, he sort of has underperformed his metrics. I think he's somewhere in between. I think he's a really good player. I think he's less than an all-star, but I don't necessarily think that he really fits what the Padres need. They do need a left fielder, but they need someone that can hit lefties. That's something that the Padres need. Blatantly, they need someone who can hit and play left field. The Padres have 7 everyday players between, across the infield and center field and right field. What they don't have are a starting catcher and a left fielder. Martin Maldonado and Elias Diaz have formed probably the first catcher outside of, I think, the Nationals. Obviously, Keibert Ruiz has had some issues this year, but Maldonado is, 39 years old, and he's not good at really anything. Elias Diaz would be fine as a backup, but, he's got a 0 WRC with runners in scoring position, and that's significantly better than Maldonado. So I think that if you can replace those 2 positions, the Padres offense suddenly looks, mediocre to, really solid. Their pitching is interesting because they have Musgrove, who's out for the year. He's trying to make it back to the playoffs. I don't know if that's the smartest idea. Yu Darvish just came back. He's made a couple of starts. We don't know if he's going to, look like the Yu Darvish, that we've seen, in the last 4 years. Michael King is supposed to be back at some point, but the Dodgers showed us something last year is that you don't need to have a full rotation in order to win a World Series. If you have an elite bullpen, which is probably the Padres' biggest strength, they're second in ERA this season, I think second and fifth among bullpen. You can rely on that if you have two solid starters. Nick Pivetta has been a heck of a signing for Preller. He's got an ERA under 3 this year. He's striking out more than a batter than an inning. I think that they might try to do something where they trade Dylan Cease, who's entering his walk year. I know that, as many as 6 teams, Phillies and the Yankees are interested among some other teams. They might try to trade Cease and then trade for, an innings eater to fill those innings in return. There's some possible interest in Charlie Morton, who's, up in his heyday. But if they can get something for Cease and use that, salary cap to fill the left field position and maybe upgrade a catcher. I know Anthony left, but I would love Taylor Ward from the Angels. A possibility of trading for Taylor Ward and Travis d'Arnaud from the Angels would fix the Padres' offensive woes for sure.
Yeah. So, looking across, there's a lot of pieces that we can, look at from multiple teams. I know the Red Sox were looking in on Dylan Cease. But because according to, what I'm hearing, the Red Sox are looking at, rentals. They really don't want to go out and get somebody like that's going to cost them more. And I don't understand the thinking that they have, just because of the fact, if you could go out and get a Joey Ryan, why not go out and get a Joey Ryan? Our pitching is ridiculous. In my opinion, in our farm system, there's maybe one right now prospect that is untouchable, and that's Peyton Tolley. Just because of how ridiculous he's going to be. I could actually see him part of this organization as soon as next year, going forward. So, Don, what matchups, what teams really fit what the Reds are looking for for a trade partner, and what are you hearing that they're willing to be giving up?
I think, for the Reds, what they definitely need in terms of better production at third base and in the outfield, they do match up well with Arizona to bring Suarez back. They would have to part with, at minimum, Chase Petty, who didn't pitch well in his 2 big league outings, but, teams like the Cardinals that he faced said, his stuff was pretty good. Having a little bit of a rough year, but still a lot of upside there, only 22, so they would have to start that package with him. And I think throwing another, pitcher like a Ty Floyd, I think those two would be enough to at least get a conversation going with Arizona to get that deal done. Then I also think, the Rays are always a team that's flipping players. The Reds have the prospect pool to be able to get another bullpen arm, somebody at the back of the bullpen, like Fairbanks from the Rays. That would be somebody that would really help the Reds. So those would be the 2 guys that I would target if I were them, that I think they match up well with in terms of what those teams look for in exchange. And then also, a mid-tier type of a prospect, just to add that right-handed outfield bat, bring back Tommy Pham, from the Pirates, and just give them somebody that, middle of the road prospect, somebody that's in single A, double A, and, bring that bat back, because they've got the left-handed hitting outfielders. They just don't have the right-handed bats. So if they were able to bring Pham back, he's still a pretty good performer. He plays well in the big games, postseason. He's a good player there. So that's the kind of moves that I think the Reds, they match up with, Pittsburgh for Pham. They match up with Arizona. They have the players to get Suarez. They can compete with anybody in terms of bringing him back, but it's just what cost you want to do it. But you had him in the lineup. You hit him behind Ellie De La Cruz. And then all of a sudden the Reds lineup is pretty formidable. And then if they get into the postseason, you have a healthy Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott. Nick Lodolo has been pitching great. Lights out his last couple of starts. In a short series, they can go pretty far if they're, able to strengthen the bullpen, add that extra bat there.
Yeah, and you may mention the Pirates. Bednar's probably going to be a trade target. And I also know for another bullpen piece, Baltimore also said they're listing offers for Batista.
Yeah, the Reds were interested in him, but I heard he just went on the injured list.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he did. I think today he just went on the injured list. So that was a guy that the Reds, were looking at too. But they've got, outside of, not going to trade Rhett Lauer. They're not going to trade Chase Burns. You're not going to trade Sal Stewart. But anybody outside of those three, if you can land, Suarez, or you can get Fairbanks, Duran from the Red Sox, they got to do it. And I think for the fans, the front office really has to show, I think the clubhouse, I think they got to show the fan base that you brought Terry Francona in to win.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they almost have to make a move to show that they're going for it.
No.
Yeah. Now here's a quick question for everybody. Do you think that once it gets closer to the trade deadline and their names being floated out there and they don't want to leave, that they go on the IL? Like, they're hurting. Do you think players actually do that?
I think that there are times that does happen where a player doesn't want to be moved and they think there's 2 months left in the season. I have shoulder fatigue now or something. I think that does come up.
I think that has happened. I don't think it's as common as some fans might think, though.
Right.
Okay.
On the Reds, Emilio Pagan, he mentioned he basically called out the front office. I really like that. The Reds are a team that have, not exactly got all in. They start every offseason as, we'll see how things progress. We'll shoot for the playoffs, but then, midway through the season, they're, a few games under 500, we'll see. This team feels different. You mentioned the rotation. They've got a solid top three guys. Nick Martinez is a guy that, you think of in the postseason. You don't necessarily need, 4 or 5 starters. He's a guy that if you need him for, one series, but you need to put him in the bullpen, that's an instant upgrade right there. You've got, a back end, a setup guy right there. I think Pagan's been good for them. Of the teams that are, below the wild card, they're probably the team that I think is most ready to make that jump. So I think the Suarez, I don't know how likely that is. But they are.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think it's likely. And the other thing that I know that they don't like about him, they love the person, they love the bat, but they don't love the defense.
I also don't love the fact that he's a rental for them. I think that they're a young team that should be ready to compete for the next coming years. I would think that they would want someone that could compete for the next year and beyond. So. Yeah, I'm all in on the Reds buying. I don't think that them buying for this year and this year only makes a lot of sense.
No, it doesn't, and I think that's where the front office, has to view things is that, getting to the postseason, while that would make the fans happy, if you're not going to want to give up somebody that can help you in 2026, 2027, 2028 for somebody that's only going to be there for a couple of months, just so you can get to the postseason and go out in round 1.
Okay, well, let's sit there and bring in another guest. This guy, Ryan Clary, he covers the Washington Nationals. Ryan, what's going on, man? Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and, Nationals, buyers, sellers, let us know.
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me, guys. I'm Ryan Clary, host of the Locked On Nationals podcast here in town. And I can't answer that one question, Rit. The Nationals will be sellers for what is the 5th straight season, and that is the expectation. I mean, I think a lot of people kind of went into this season kind of thinking that they might be able to compete. You've got some young talent here, but unfortunately, things have gone lopsided. And right now, we're looking at the deadline. We are, 1 week away at this point, and we are expecting them to sell. And I think the Red Sox could be in play to make some moves with the Nationals. So I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I know Finnegan will be a lovely piece to add to our bullpen that is already, I think it's top 5 in
saves.
In saves, yeah. So
yeah,
that would be really great. Conrado, let's talk Giants. What exactly do you think you guys would be looking for, and what do you guys think you'll be willing to give up to push that?
I mean, in every mock trade you always see the same names, right? Floated around, at least from what teams would be asking for, which would start with our first baseman, outfielder prospect Bryce Eldridge, and then our top prospect, pitcher Carson Whisenhunt. Well, I guess they're 1 and 2. I mean, I know the Giants they're very high on both, and that's not just to, maintain trade leverage or trade value. The fan base, we get daily updates on them. Really, when they made the trade for Rafi, they did let him know that they do believe Bryce Aldridge could likely step into the first base role next season. So he's kind of like a high-end placeholder, and then he'll become, our DH moving forward next season. So I think they still have that plan, in place. I think if they're trading him, it's got to be again for another quote unquote star player. Obviously a package, of prospects and stuff like that. But same thing with Whisenhunt. I would be a little bit more willing. I think there should be conversations. Given just, again, we've talked about this, the depth pitching prospects that the Giants have, some of whom have already been called up, who are kind of working their way in, just the way that Landon Roop recently did over the last couple of years. Kyle Harrison, who's now part of your organization, I mean, they all did the same thing. They worked their way from the bullpen into a starting role. There are a couple of guys who are currently part of the Giants bullpen who I think could be made available. Our younger prospects, Spencer Bivens could potentially be appealing to some teams. I know they're really high on, Randy Rodriguez. He just made an all-star team. But I think those are guys that they could definitely be in, trade discussions if the price is right. But all of that is to say that, again, the Giants, they essentially have already made their big splash trade. So from here on out, I would be surprised, if it's another trade of that magnitude. But, going back to what we said at the top of the episode, I think just kind of looking at it now, I think they really want to improve the outfield, probably outfield and DH. With Rafi now at first base, you can make an argument that they can improve or try to get an upgrade at second base. But I think outfield and DH would probably be the areas, the priority areas. And that, having said that, I don't think it'll be as splashy of a name. I could see them, no offense to the guys I'll list, but, the next tier of trade candidates, like a Taylor Ward or a Luis Robert, just because, and those guys have had their own ups and downs this season. But I think with the Giants, you take it you look, our best gloves don't have any real consistent power, and our best power hitters are very horrible at tracking the ball. So, you're just trying to find that balance. Given that the pitching has been strong for the most part, it's been strong all year, I think they're just going to try to lean on that formula. So I know there are some bigger names I could see just because they're expiring contracts. I could definitely see them taking a look at Marcell Ozuna. But, kind of in that direction. I know, I'm pretty sure the Giants have registered interest in Brian Reynolds, who technically started his career as a Giants. I don't know if he really wants to come back, but I know that's kind of been floated out there. Those are the times of guys I could see them targeting. And again, there are just like it was with the Red Sox when we made the Rafi trade. I mean, I feel like our pitching prospects would probably be the most appealing, and given the depth of prospects that they have, they'd probably be willing to deal some of them.
Okay. Ellie, what you're a buyer. So you and Ryan are a buyer. You guys are sellers. So, what for package would you want in return for like a Sandy Alcantara? Your who's Cabrera is another one of your pitchers that's names out there.
Well, I mean, when you're in this situation, generally you just want to look at the best possible talent available in this case and get a lot of teams involved. And when you have two starting pitchers like that, I don't think they're going to trade both of them. I think it would be one or the other. You could get a great bidding war going on there just because of the lack of supply in those type of guys that have that upside and the kind of stuff that they have to really excite contending teams. So I don't really worry too much about specific fits. I'll just say that on this Marlins team, it's been a surprisingly deep lineup in the big leagues, and really the only two holes are at first base and at third base. If they could get a prospect that is right around big league ready at either of those positions, then I think that is something that is very desirable. It was probably over a month ago that we actually put up a mock trade on our site involving, as mentioned earlier in the show, Bryce Eldridge as a guy that if Sandy had really reclaimed his status as a top front of the rotation type of guy and the Giants were being super aggressive. I think this was right in the aftermath of the Devers trade that we thought maybe Eldridge would be somewhat available because, as Conrado pointed out, it's kind of a 2026 timeline with him. If he's not that going to be involved much at all this year, then maybe they get very desperate. And considering that both Sandy and Cabrera, they have multiple years of club control beyond this year, I don't think it's an outrageous ask to think about some of the very best prospects in baseball being available as a headliner for one of those two. So that's kind of the dream scenario. I think realistically what we see at the deadline is that almost all these teams are prospect huggers at the highest level. Like they never want to move their very top guy for anything, but it makes a little bit of a difference when you have players with multiple years of club control. So especially if it's a first baseman or a third baseman, those are kind of the two positions. If they could get one of those guys that's right around ready to step into a big league role, then all of a sudden the Marlins are in a position where they can realistically see themselves being contenders next year, which is not something that I saw entering this year. But because 25 has been a pretty significant step forward, they are trying to just put the finishing touches on the rest of that lineup and feeling pretty good about, even if they trade one of these starting pitchers, they trust the next arm in line to kind of fill their shoes pretty well without much of a drop off.
Yeah, when Conrado was on our podcast, it was shortly after the Devers trade. And, we were talking about Eldridge, and we possibly could have got him, but we would have had to pay some of Devers' contract, which I think that was the biggest thing that they wanted. They wanted the whole contract off the books. So that's when we had to go to the next level. Ellie, the Red Sox do have a almost big league ready. He plays first and third and plays Jordan. That would be one of our prospects that I would be, willing to throw in a trade to get one of those arms for a legitimate, number 2, number 3 starting pitcher in our rotation.
Yeah, he was a guy that I know he got so much hype coming into the pros. A lot of that because of his name, a lot of that because of his power, the power potential that he showed as an amateur. He is hitting really well in the upper minors this year. I got to give him credit for that. The production has been there. I remember thinking that it might be a bit of a stretch to see him as a third baseman moving forward. He's playing some of both this year. So I don't know. You'd know better than me in terms of whether realistically he can actually has the glove and the mobility to handle both of those spots. But that is, I don't know if that quite would be the headliner that they're looking for in that type of deal, but it would be a piece for sure that I think the Marlins would be interested in. I tend to forget about him, honestly, so I'm glad you brought him up.
Yeah, well, he had some rough, he took a line drive. He was on the IL for freak injuries while he was in Double-A, and he's shown that since he's healthy now, he's actually able to, put up some stellar numbers there. So, Ryan, you and I were talking a little bit with some mock trades back and forth. And you threw something out there with Gore. Now, Gore is a ridiculous guy that we would sit there and love. I'm sure many players would love. But he was one of the key pieces you got in return from the Juan Soto deal. So what do you think, what type of package would look like for that?
I mean, right now, as far as a package would look like, I mean, you kind of think back to the Juan Soto deal. Now, I don't think that we would get that. I don't think anyone anticipates that anymore, but I do think that Mackenzie Gore could generate some interest where we are talking about some massive haul in return. He's got 2.5 years on his deal left. He's got 3 postseasons. And a lot of these executives, the way that they think, they're like, well, the way that we can maximize this is 3 postseasons is better than 2. And I do anticipate a Mackenzie Gore deal, whether it's this offseason, whether it's right now at the trade deadline. So if I'm a GM out there and if I'm the Washington Nationals with an interim GM, I'm trying to think what I can do to make a splash and what kind of generates a faster rebuild. And it starts with trading Mackenzie Gore at this point. If a team is out there thinking that they could win the World Series this year and they are just one pitcher away, one good, solid starting pitcher away, Mackenzie Gore is your option. I mean, you might look at his ERA right now. He got just his teeth kicked in the other day over this past weekend. His worst start of the season by far. His ERA went from like a 3.02 to like a 3.6. I mean, it was really bad this past weekend. But look beyond those numbers. I mean, Mackenzie Gore is an ace caliber pitcher. I think that we could get something definitely even more than what Crochet and the White Sox got this past offseason for him when you guys traded for him. So I'm kind of looking at something again, like we kind of threw some names out there. The ideal guy for me would be Roman Anthony, but obviously he's going to be off the chart at this point. He's not going to be dealable. At least that's what I believe at this time. But I would look at a huge prospect haul. Like we were talking about 3 of your top 5 guys in your system and a couple throw-ins as well. And I think that would make the Nationals pretty happy with what they got there. So I'm looking at, again, difference makers, potential really good players in Major League Baseball, maybe a couple All-Stars in that deal. And I don't know if anyone's going to be able to meet that price at this point, but that would be the asking price 100% in my opinion.
Let me see. Let me look back.
We did talk about that trade.
Yep. Yeah. We were talking Jarren Duran, Conley early, Johansson, Garcia, Franklin, Arias, and David Sam.
I mean, that's a good trade. Like, I think I would take that deal at this point. I mean, honestly, Jarren Duran is kind of one of those things where I'm like, I'm not 100% sure where he fits with this team at this point. We got a pretty loaded outfield with a lot of young guys. James Wood, Dylan Cruz coming back from injury. Dalen Lyles, another guy who's a second-round pick back in 2021. He's starting to look the part in right field. So I'm not exactly sure where he would fit at this point. But, I mean, again, he's kind of an interesting player. I mean, we've seen him be an all-star caliber player. Everyone thought this time last year, I mean, you guys would be able to speak to it a little bit more. But Duran, we thought that he was going to be like Mr. Red Sox at this point. And I don't really know what's happening there. I'm sure you guys could speak to that. But I think a package like that is pretty interesting for the Nationals. I'd have to look a little bit deeper into those prospects. But, I mean, again, we're talking a massive haul that, quite frankly, I'd be a little surprised if anyone met that at this year's deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. Crawley, what about you for the Cubs? What would look great to be able to trade with, and what kind of trade package could you put together with it? No, you're on mute.
Right now it's really
You're really breaking up, Crawley.
So, you mentioned Mackenzie Gore. Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
A little bit better? Yeah.
So when we're talking about like Mackenzie Gore, that would be perfect for what the Cubs need. And I don't know though if the Cubs have the prospect package that they could put in that Washington would be interested in. We got James Triantos, second baseman, infielder. We have a really good hitting prospect in Moises Ballesteros, but he's more of like a DH type. So I don't know if the Cubs have enough to get Mackenzie Gore, but those are the names that keep coming up. Mackenzie Gore for the trying to come to the Cubs. Dylan Cease, he was a former Cub back in the day. Could the Cubs try to swing something for them? It's clear that they need a number 1-2 type pitcher, and the Cubs faced Mackenzie Gore, and I want to say Mackenzie Gore owned him pretty well. Dylan Cease, the Cubs have known him and seen him for a long time. These are all just, you mentioned Joe Ryan earlier. These are all names that kind of keep coming up. What I will tell you is the average Cub fan, they're not going to want to take some like mediocre piddly deal. They absolutely choked away the postseason in 23. They underachieved in 24. There's no way they don't get to the postseason in 25 and this fan base be okay. And so there's a lot of different things going on. One of them, I don't know if you guys saw the announcement that Wrigley's going to get its first All-Star game since 1990. That's going to be announced on August 1st. And so, ownership wants to do something. It's just a question of what. And it's the salary cap that's always been the sticking point for Tom Ricketts. He's kind of using that as a hard cap. And we take a look at what San Diego's doing, and they say, screw the salary cap and go for it. And that's what the Cubs are hoping will happen. But, it just doesn't seem that way. And what frustrates a lot of Cubs fans is when you got Kyle Tucker, you should have gone all in. You should have gotten Alec Bregman. You should have made a better push for Tanner Scott. They were right there, and then they let the Dodgers swoop in and do it. It's just there was a lot of moves that could have been made in the offseason that would have had the Cubs in the cat seat right now, and they didn't make them because they didn't want to go over the luxury tax another year in a row. So I don't know if the Cubs have the prospect capital, if they're willing to give up a guy like Jackson Wiggins, who they're very high on. One of the Owen Casey's the big one. The trouble with Owen Casey, and I want to say he was going to be in the deal with the Marlins, and they had a deal for what's his name that went to Philadelphia.
That's Luzardo.
Name's escaping me, but Owen Casey's kind of like their big name right now, and I just don't know if they're willing to give it up, because if they don't sign Kyle Tucker, that would be Kyle Tucker's replacement in Owen Casey.
Well, I can tell you this much, because I just wanted to hop in there, because you did talk about Mackenzie Gore there, Crawley. It's going to take a lot more than James Triantos, and I love James Triantos. I actually grew up with him. That's my guy. I actually played in the same little league as him. So love James Triantos. I think he's going to be a great player, but in no way, shape, or form will I be trading Mackenzie Gore for James Triantos as a top guy in that deal. But I just wanted to throw that out there because I know him.
Yeah, let's bring on some more people here as we got of New York Major League Talk. We got Rob Maraska covering the Mets.
How you doing?
His partner Chris covering. He couldn't make it on the AL, so he's gonna give us some Yankees inside information here. So don't think he's out of place. And then so far we got one of the two Braves people. We've got Leah, who will be covering the Atlanta Braves.
Yes, so. Autumn's back in the backstage too, but I don't know where we were going to fit everybody.
I didn't see her.
I can step out if you want. If you want to get more national.
Oh, there she is.
If you need room, you could kick me out for a while and bring me on later if you want.
Okay, if you just want to sit in the back, we can just swap you in and out.
Yeah, go ahead and swap me out too to make more room.
Oh, okay.
Thank you guys.
I'll put Chris on. Wait, hold on, bam. It's bam. Okay, as long as Don's there. Okay, and we've got Autumn, who also covers with Leah the Atlanta Braves. So let's start off with wow. Okay, now I gotta refocus. So Ryan, Ellie, there. Okay, let's start off with you, Rob. You know, let's talk about Mets. The Mets right now are in first place.
Yep.
You know, you guys are definitely going to be buyers. What are you hearing? Of some possible trade targets that the Mets are looking at right now.
Well, David Stern said that the Mets are definitely going to get relief help, which they need, because really the Mets relievers are shot. They've been overused the first half, as everybody knows, and they're tired. And now their ERA went from the best in May and June till now it's 5. It's a 5. All right. So they're tired, and they have to get relievers. That's number one. That's the number one thing the New York Mets, like all the other teams, do. They need relief help. The Mets probably could use a starting pitcher. Senga's back from his injury. Manaya's back from his injury. Montas is back from his injury. But, Montas is a wild card, right? Up and down. You never know what's going to go on with that guy. He worries me. So far, he's been pitching pretty good since he's come back. So I'm happy about that, but that could change with him at any time. Senga, you have to worry about Senga. He's looked good, but we remember what happened last year when he came back. He got injured, then he pitched in the postseason. He got injured again in the postseason. So that makes me nervous too. Peterson has looked great so far for the Mets, so I'm happy. But then the other starter, Clay Holmes, has never pitched this many innings in his career. So we don't know what's going to happen. They're going to have to go easy with these guys. So if they could get another starting pitcher, that would be great. I like the idea of Seth Lugo coming back. Make a deal with Kansas City. I would love to see that happen. I don't know if it's going to happen, but, I would love to see Lugo come back as a starting pitcher with the Mets.
Yeah. Leah, Autumn, what are you guys hearing from the Braves camp? The Braves are 14 games out of their division. They are 10.5 right now. I'm guessing they're going to be sellers.
Yeah, I mean, we've traditionally been buyers, but our bullpen has just gone hot, and we've just had so many injuries with starting pitchers. It's getting ridiculous. I'm trying to remember which one of you mentioned it, but we're definitely thinking that Ozuna will be part of a trade. Adam, do you want to speak more to that?
Yeah, I definitely think he's gonna go. If I was him, I would. I know he gets the chance because he's 10-5 thing, but yeah, if I was him and I had the chance to go win, I would go if I was him, because I think that he's definitely on the back end of his career, and I don't think he'll be playing much longer. So if I was him, I would go to a team that is competing, and that's not going to be us this year. So
Certainly not.
I highly doubt he vetoes anything. Yeah, especially if they're in talks with like the Padres or something. I definitely would see him going there, because they're actually, and they can make it. We're not. So
we are certainly not. Yeah.
Yeah, I know earlier Conrado was talking about DH. He could fit in you guys really easy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Bay Area would love Marcell Ozuna. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we really appreciate everything our DHs have done, but I think we want one that actually we have reason to believe has consistent power. And I know it's been an up and down season for Marcell, but I think, again, the Giants are just in this place where they're tired, I think, as an organization, of just continuously kicking the can down the road is kind of how I would describe it. I think that even a guy like Ozuna, as you said, like he's kind of on the back end of his career, I think that kind of suits him, right? As think of him as like an experienced high-end stopgap, right? Until they bring along the guys that are currently in the farm system, some of whom might need to be dealt in order to acquire him. But I think with short-term money, I think the Giants are willing to eat that. I don't think that's a problem. So, yeah, it'll really be interesting to see over the course of the next week where he potentially lands. But I think there would be interest there from the Giants side.
Yeah. I mean, we've already seen our players that are looking like they're going to go. Everybody's kind of stepping back. We've messed with the lineup so many times this season. Like, even having Acuna back, I think people often lean into that, just like, okay, we've got Acuna and we've got Strider and we're good, but we're not. So there's just
close.
Not even close. Yeah. It's been, when we're broadcasting our games, I feel like half the time we're not even talking about baseball because what's going on is just ridiculous. And the thing that's frustrating is that we've got a good team that we know can produce. We've got a starting lineup that has been great in the past, and they're just imploding. And, I think pitching has a lot to do with that. They're not getting run support. I mean, we've kind of pieced together after Spencer Schwellenbach got hurt too. And we can't get run support for whoever starts. And the bullpen is just imploding. So I think, like above anything else, we just need arms, and arms.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we also got, real quick, we also got our guy covering the Dodgers who just joined us, Ethan Shirazi.
What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
Good.
How's it going?
So, Chris, go ahead then.
No, I was just going to add something with Ozuna. Doesn't Ozuna have 10-5 rights? Like, would he want to be traded all the way out to San Fran? Is that something he'd be interested in, or do you think he'd want to stay with Atlanta?
Well, that's the thing. I feel like he has a home in Atlanta. He really likes it there, but at the same time, if this is like getting towards the end of his career, I think he would want the chance to maybe compete in like the postseason, because he hasn't got that. Like in 2021, he didn't get to do that, because of all the stuff that happened with him breaking his wrist and then him, the legal trouble. So he didn't really get to he didn't really get to compete with us then. So if it's like in that aspect, if he's thinking, okay, this is nearing the end of my career and he wants to try and compete to win, then I think he will say, yeah, I want to go. But if he's just kind of like, I think he might veto it then. But yeah, if he wants to compete, I think he'll be okay with being traded.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Ethan, Dodgers, buyers, of course, they buy anything, everything. They are actually, one of the, as I like to dub them, the $1 billion princess of Major League Baseball. So what are you guys looking at to try to scoop up now to help your lineup? Because, we had a podcast last night with one of your friends, and, we pointed out the top 4 people in your lineup, strong. The bottom half is absolutely horrible. So what are you guys doing to, look to shore up that?
Yeah, I mean, as y'all probably know, the bullpen is absolutely bombarded with injuries. It's been like that whole entire season. So this deadline was, we're just looking for arms. A rumor I actually just saw the other day was, they're actually looking to move Dustin May possibly in the deadline to get another arm in return or something else in return. But they're also reluctant to move Dalton Rushing and Alex Freeland. So if you can get any offer that can, be a better potential pitcher for Dustin May, then we'll take that gladly. So that's just the whole thing that I'm hoping for. So that's just what we're hoping for right now.
So let's go ahead.
In terms of the bottom of the lineup, yeah, like you said, the bottom hasn't been that strong, but bottom just consists of Michael Conforto, sometimes Tommy Edman, Kike Hernandez sometimes, but he's unfortunately out for the IL. But like I said, just deadline just all about the pitching now. So
okay, let's go to the adopted National League Yankees for the day. Chris, what are you guys looking at right now? And I'm going to be honest. Like I hear names of Suarez and Kelly from the Diamondbacks, and I'm looking at your depleted farm system. Like, what possibly could you guys give up that other teams, don't have to try to get, Suarez and a Kelly for a rental?
Well, I think right now, guys that are ready to go, I don't think they want to trade. Obviously, like Lombard Jr., they don't want to move him. Guys like Spencer Jones, they don't want to move him. Or the kid that's been pitching this week, Schlittler, who just came up. He's made a couple of starts. He's looked really good. I don't think they want to move them for rentals, which basically Suarez and Kelly are. The only way those guys are being moved are for, younger, controllable players. And I don't think that's really available right now. So I don't think those guys are going to get traded for Suarez and Kelly or even Gallen at this point. Mm-hmm. I think they would have to go a little bit deeper into their prospect pool and to see if other teams are interested in them. I've heard one name I seen come up on the feed was Flores, their catcher, who they just brought up to AAA. Some teams are interested in him, and you could see how the Yankee catchers in their system have come up and have produced. So I could see why teams are looking for that kid Flores in AAA, because he's probably, pretty close to being being ready for the major league. So it'll be interesting how they move this, because Spencer Jones down in AAA is going crazy right now. He's got like 13, 14 home runs in a matter of like 10 days. He hit 3 home runs yesterday, I think, or today. So he might be a guy that they move up and trade either Dominguez or Trent Grisham, at this point. That's a possibility. People have been looking to, they supposedly teams are looking at trading for Ben Rice to be their catcher. So, and I don't know if the Yankees are going to be willing to do that. So it's going to be interesting. I have zero confidence now in Brian Cashman after the last few years. And I know a lot of Yankee fans have zero confidence in him, but it's going to be an interesting, trade deadline, because do you want to waste another, prime year from Aaron Judge, right? The guy's having another MVP type season and he's getting up there in age. Like, how many more years is Aaron Judge going to be Aaron Judge, right? Hitting 45, 50 home runs a season, batting 300. The time is starting to wind down on him. I'm not saying next year he's going to be bad, but after 33, 34, those years are going to come to an end eventually. So do they go all in at this deadline and get Suarez or another third baseman and a couple of arms? That's going to be the big story for the Yankees, I think.
Yeah, I know I read earlier about Ben Rice. People were asking him about, catcher. Heck, the Red Sox would love to sit there and trade for another catcher with the Yankees, because look at Carlos Narvaez.
I know.
But
the kid we got for him is pretty good down in, I think he's in AAA. What's that? Rodriguez, I think. Is that him? He's a pitcher. Right?
Yeah.
Right. He's been doing really well, so they got high hopes for him. But he might be traded.
Yeah, and I've seen Spencer Jones' debut. I think I was there for the Woo Sox when he debuted there. So, but let's go. Let's see. Now I'm gotta go around here. Boom, boom. Let's go, Ellie. Want to sit there and continue with any more, or comment on anybody that has had anybody to say so far?
I just want to say to our Braves ladies that you've been spoiled for quite a while coming into this season. It's been 7 straight years of making it to the playoffs and usually like being a real threat to win it all. And finally things have kind of fallen apart. So I feel for you.
It's hard for us. It's hard. You get, it's like if you get A's, then your parents expect them every time. So
right. Yeah, it is.
Being a Yankee fan, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
From Marlins' perspective, it's just been they more so than anybody else. The Marlins fans really are jealous of the Braves. And so to see the fact that the Marlins are ahead of the Braves this deep into the season is one of those crazy things that I don't think anybody could have expected coming into this.
Nobody.
Absolutely
nobody.
You know what? Me and Chris on our show kept saying, all right, when are the Braves going to start winning? When are the Braves going to make their move? Because they always do. They always do. But finally this year, we get to say it doesn't look like it, and they're going to be cellared.
Their injuries have finally, they finally caught up. I mean, look at the Dodgers, right? The Dodgers are not running away from it because of so many. I mean, they've had a ridiculous amount of injuries, right? Starting pitchers, you said relief pitchers, right? So it's amazing, but the Dodgers they just keep rolling. The Braves
We're
just
bringing
don't
up
have
19-year-old kids and trying them out because we've got nothing else,
Right.
And also we were talking about this before, but Autumn, what were your thoughts on Raisel Iglesias as being one that we keep or get rid of?
That's a hard one for me because he has been so good for us the last few years. And I think it's just more attention's getting put on him because of how horrible our entire bullpen is. And really just how horrible our whole team is. So it's like he's really getting singled out, but he has had a really bad year, and that slider is going to be the death of me if he keeps throwing it. Yeah, honestly, I feel like we could get, I don't know though, like he's getting older and he has had a really bad year, but he also can show that he can be really good and one of the best closers in baseball because he was very, very good last year. So I don't know. It really just depends on, I guess, what we would get in return for him because our farm system is garbage. So we really could use some prospects to build that up, but I don't know who you would really get in return for him. So I guess it just kind of depends on the package you'd get in return.
Yeah. I mean, we just have people that we're used to having perform really well. And it's not that they're doing horrible every at bat, but just something's not been clicking all year. No matter what gets changed, everybody's kind of on the fire snicker parade again this season. So we'll see.
Well, and look at the early Marlins. I know it's been a while, but man, you guys won a World Series, tore your team apart. Won a World Series, tore your team apart. Twice. Like, not too many teams can sit there and say that they've, won a World Series, dismantled the whole team, and went back there to win it again a few years later.
Right. And that's always an interesting talking point in the Marlins community about whether they are satisfied that this team has won 2 World Series already in its history, or whether it's been miserable because most years they're all the way at the bottom and don't really have a competitive chance. And it's an interesting hypothetical. Would you rather have 0 World Series rings, but actually be in or near the playoffs almost every year, or have what the Marlins have had, which is just 4 total playoff appearances in their entire history? And I think what they're trying to build now under Peter Bendix as their new president of baseball operations is to be more consistent. He comes from the Rays, and the Rays are always in the mix every single year, even without spending very much money at all. And what they're doing with the player development is it's kind of wearing on what the Marlins are doing. It seems like they're finally figuring some stuff out when it comes to trying to avoid repeating that again. The next time that they actually make it really deep into the playoffs, they want to be in a position where they feel good enough about producing their own, developing their own talent in a way, especially on the hitting side. They've been so bad for most of their history at developing their own hitting prospects in a way that just makes me rip my hair out, and it's held them back for so long. Because that's the most important thing you can really do as a franchise, is being able to draft and develop your own franchise guys to fill out the diamond. And the Marlins have been so bad at that, but it seems like that corner is finally being turned a little bit. They seem to have some momentum finally when it comes to that sort of thing.
Well, it's always harder to get pitching, and you guys develop pitching so well. So you could trade, to get those hitters you need. Unlike the Red Sox for many years, where we could not get, develop a pitcher if we had to, but we had plenty of bats. But it takes way too many bats to get a trade for a decent pitcher. So,
yeah. And just to give you an example from last year, it's worked out beautifully where they didn't even trade one of their best guys. They traded Trevor Rogers at the deadline last year, and he was like the standard back end starter type. They sent him to the desperate Orioles, and they got Kyle Stowers in return. And Stowers was pretty terrible the rest of last year, but now he's a top 10 hitter in all of baseball. So that was like one example. That's what got people believing in this new front office, is when they were able to swing that trade, and then all of a sudden turn Kyle Stowers into an all-star and one of the best hitters in the league.
Yeah. Don, do you have any comments about anything you're hearing so far? Are you there, Don?
I'm backstage.
No, you're not. You're live.
I'm live now. Okay. Yeah. No, mostly just the Reds just looking around, trying to find a bat. I think, the one name that came up earlier in the discussion here that kind of, would be a good fit for the Reds was Mackenzie Gore. If the Nationals were going to make him available, I think the Reds would have the perfect package to get him. I think they would have to start with Chase Petty. They'd have to throw in Cam Collier, pretty good bat, and then maybe a couple other, lesser tier prospects. But if they could get him, add him to the rotation, then you could trade Nick Martinez on an expiring contract. And I think that would strengthen the Reds down the stretch, at least in the rotation. Hunter Green coming back, you don't know what you're going to get. So I think that would be an intriguing name for me. But I think realistically, the target, there's two relievers, Fairbanks in Tampa Bay, Jackson, Minnesota. Those are the two guys that I think they will target, and I think it would take kind of a mid-tier prospect to get those guys. I think, you could probably put two or three guys together, and the Rays and the Twins, they would be interested.
Okay. Ethan, with the Dodgers, what type of package, are you looking for relievers? Because, we named a few earlier in the first hour. Bednar from Pittsburgh, Felix Bautista also from Baltimore. Maybe even in a package, because we talked last night on our podcast with Built for LA, and my biggest question to him was, why is Mookie Betts playing shortstop when you guys got Edman and Kim? Like, that just baffles me so much. But you could go and maybe get a Cedric Mullins, with Batista, like a package to help you out there as well.
Right, I agree. I mean, like I said, Mookie's playing shortstop, but his main position is right field. And I think if you move at least Kim to short, or at least play Tommy Edman as well. Dodgers have a lot of options to play different positions and whatnot. But one package I'm trying to get, which is not a pitcher, that's been going around for a little bit, is Kyle Tucker for the Cubs. So that's a potential package we can possibly get. Like, as you guys know, like, the Dodgers are extremely rich and get anybody they want. But if something comes up with the Dodgers and that's worth it for the Dodgers, and we're not giving up too much, then we'll absolutely go for it. But I trust in our front office. They get all like the pieces that we need. So I'm just looking forward to the trade deadline, man. So just hoping for the best.
Okay, Rob. What kind of package or trade package do you think would be suffice for the Mets going forward to get them to where they need to be, which is, World Series or bust?
Yeah, definitely is World Series or bust. Listen, they need another hitter. They need a power hitter. They need an outfielder. I would love to see Mullins come from the Orioles. The Mets right now, listen, the Mets have a lot of ready for Major League Baseball players, young players that they could package. All right, they have Beatty, they have Acuna, they have Mauricio, which I don't want to see go. But the point is, they have players, Major League ready players there. Plus, their farm system is very, very strong. Jet Williams in AAA, shortstop. Hey, he's probably going to be a great player. Where's he going to play? Shortstop, Lindor. What's he going to do? Maybe go to the outfield, maybe second. I don't know if the Mets are going to trade him, or Brandon Sprout, another great pitcher in AAA. So, but they do have the players and players who are playing Major League Baseball right now to make a package for Mullins. I also heard that I don't know how true this is, but Brent Rooker from the A's, they had some interest in. He said he's not going anywhere. He's a right fielder, so where is he going to play? He's going to have to move. Soto's not moving. But the point is, he does not have a no-trade clause in that extension he signed with the A's. He's batting .275, 21 home runs, 56 RBIs. I mean, that would be a great fit. I don't know if that's true, but I just like to see the Mets at least get a reliever, like I said before, or a power hitter, outfielder, because the Mets, even though they're starting to hit again, Alvarez went down. He fixed whatever was wrong with him, and he's hitting now. Vientos is starting to hit. They're starting to come together. Lindor, a lot of these guys were in a big slump. Lindor before the All-Star game when he broke his toe. I don't know if that is the reason why he was in such a long slump. They're starting to hit again, but I do think they need another hitter. They have the players for a great package, and like I said, I wouldn't mind seeing Mullins come from Baltimore.
Okay, and you touched base on the A's. Another name that was out there that they would take offers on, or at least consider, was Tyler Soderstrom. For the A's. Me personally, he's got to be a kid that you keep there. For the future.
I agree with you. Listen, they're going to be in Vegas in a couple of years, right? They're going to want to put a team that people are going to want to see out there. So, yeah, I would keep him. The same thing with Mason Miller. They said he's untouchable, right? Everybody would love to have Mason Miller. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. Diaz has an opt-out year for the Mets. This is after this year, he can opt out. It looks like he's going to opt out. Are they going to re-sign him? I don't know. They could go after Clase from the Guardians also. So there's a lot of things out there that the Mets could do, and I think the Mets have enough players in their system where they could make a couple of deals. So let's see what happens.
And Severino's probably available too for the A's, right? Because he's already been complaining about that stadium out in Sacramento, right? He hasn't pitched well there, so.
But Chris, that contract.
Yeah,
the A's are going to have to eat. They're going to have to eat a lot of that. They're going to have to eat a lot of that contract because the Mets aren't going to. The Mets would have signed him for that much money in the offseason. So I don't know if the A's are going to be able to eat that contract. But yeah, if they could get Sevy, that would probably be great for the push. But that's a lot of money.
Yeah, look at we went and talked a little bit about Severino on the AL, and his home ERA is 6.68, but his away ERA is 3.10. So he is doing what he's supposed to do. It's just what are you going to do? And he knew it coming into the season. When you're playing in a AAA ballpark, overall.
He knew it. He knew it. But listen, you can't blame him. He went for the money. This is going to be his last big contract. Let's face it. He had to go for the money. He did. And, I don't blame the guy. But now he's stuck in a place that he hates it there. So that's the downside to that.
And he's got $20 million this year, $25 million next year, and then $22 million player option in 2027. So it's really, when you think about it, if he pitches like he did last year, is that really that much?
No.
To pay for a guy, but he does have the injury history that you're concerned about.
Yeah. Leah, Autumn, any comments on what you're hearing so far?
Autumn. All I can think about is that, we've got competent players that are just not playing competently. And like Autumn said, the farm system just really needs to be overhauled. We don't have very many good prospects. I feel like a lot of them in desperation are getting called up too quickly. not being successful and getting sent right back down.
Yeah.
Well, what are the chances you guys think Chris Sale gets dealt?
Autumn, you can speak to that one.
I don't think he'll get traded because
He can't.
yeah. I just don't think we can do that, which honestly, if Alex Anthopoulos was to do it, would it shock me? No. Honestly, nothing that man does will ever shock me anymore. But I don't think we can do that. Like, I could see, honestly, I could see us trading Ozzy before I see us trading Chris Sale, which I don't see us trading Ozzy either, but I could see that with, the whole player option and stuff this off season. But no, I don't think we trade Chris Sale because I think he'll come back and he's going to be a big part of our rotation next year, and we need that because we have no one, because Bryce Elder and the revolving door that is the fifth starter is not going to cut it next year. So we need
Chris Sale's a national treasure. Who's going to get rid of him?
Yeah.
What about
Everybody
Ozzy?
just loves
Would
him.
you guys move Ozzy? Because I think he's got one more year left, right?
That's like the big conversation. I don't think we will because he does have one more year left. But at the same time, I could see us because you could get something in return for him. So it's kind of like, do you get something in return or do you let him walk, in free agency in a few years? Because if you could trade him and get a few good prospects, which I think you could, because Ozzy has shown that he's very capable of being one of the best second basemen in baseball. But I don't think that we trade him either. But like I said, out of Chris Sale and Ozzy, I would see us trading Ozzy before Chris Sale, honestly.
I agree.
Hey, I know we sit there and give you guys Ball and Grist for
I
sale.
love him. Give him to me.
So, Conrado, you have any comments at all from what you're hearing, or any comments you want to throw in?
No, I mean, like I said, it's just really interesting. As you said, like the manner that each of our respective franchises have operated in the past. It seemed, it was kind of a little bit of a shift, which is to be expected, right? Every team, like every iteration of a team kind of runs its course. It's just a matter of like how long it takes to kind of course correct, right? Whether that's a rebuild or a retool. Having played, the Giants just completed a series with Atlanta this week. So, yeah, of course I want my Giants to win, but I look at it also as kind of like an amateur scout, like, okay, let's see, it's really interesting how like each farm system is so vastly different. Like I can, not to be a homer, I could go on about like a number of, appealing, like pitching prospects, and like the Giants are still in search of a bat, right? Whereas other farm systems, they're flush with bats, but maybe not really, not too deep with pitchers. It's really interesting to see like how teams are really kind of going about. Is it really as open-ended as they believe to go and get to the World Series, or is it still really going to go through the kind of the teams that we expected at the beginning of the season, right? In no particular order: the Dodgers, the Yankees. I'd probably put the Mets in there too. I mean, as a Giants fan, it's those teams and then the rest of us, right? Like there's a significant gap, right, in the tiers. So it's really interesting to see, like, even just for my team, and I mean, I'd say the Padres are a step above the Giants, but even then, right? Like how close, what move or moves can you really make to close that gap? What really is the window? I know there's a spirit of competition, but at the same time, like, as everyone else is saying, like, you don't really want to like mortgage the future for maybe winning another round, and then being a quick out, and like say like the divisional series. So it's really interesting.
Okay. Ethan, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, Just the Dodgers had like a pretty rough month, as you guys know, losing 7 games in a row and then losing 2 straight, series to the Brewers, getting swept. But just a few wins in a row that can, get the Dodgers back in the track. I believe that our team can do it. Obviously, we're more than talented to win another ring in this season. So it just all takes 1 and 2 trades just to get the Dodgers back on the track, and get into October with a series. The division, win it again, and then go from there, man.
Okay, Chris, what about you?
You know what? I think this is the year for a lot of teams to, if they're going to push their chips into the center of the table, I think this is the year to do it, because I know how good the Dodgers are, or how good they can be if everybody comes back healthy and they can make a run, in September and October. But other than that, like, what other teams are that good where you say, all right, we can't beat that. We can't beat them. Like the Dodgers, when they're healthy, yeah, I don't think any team is going to be able to touch the Dodgers with when they're healthy. But other than the Dodgers, like the American League, right now the Tigers look good. Astros, Yankees, I don't think they're looking good right now. Maybe with the additions. But this is the year that if you're a team that, you're kind of on that, well, like you were just mentioning about the Giants, like this might be the year to give it a shot, because you just got what's his name?
Devers.
Right. You just got Devers. Maybe add another bat, right? And make that run and say, you know what? All right, I'll take my chances with my pitching. And in a short series, maybe I can beat the Dodgers in a 7-game series. Anything is possible. In the American League, to me, it's wide open, the American League. I mean,
yeah.
Right? Between Detroit, Houston, out of nowhere, with all the guys that they lost in the offseason, and then with the injuries that they've had during the season, and right now they got the best record in the American League, or the second best record, right? So I think that was kind of a surprise too. But this is the year, since it's so wide open, to give it a shot, right? To go all in and say, all right, you know what? We could do it this year. If there's any year to do it, I think it's this year. So you might see a team, say, all right, you know what? We'll give up that top prospect, because we really don't know what that guy's going to do, because prospects are just prospects, and we'll give it a shot. So I'm kind of curious to see what some of these teams do, because right now, hopefully by the end of the weekend, a couple more teams will fall out of it, or we'll decide to say, all right, you know what? We're going to sell. We're going to, the heck with it, we'll sell, and we'll get a little busier here before the deadline. But I think this is the year that it's wide open, that any team can win it. It's not just the Dodgers. The American League, totally wide open. And the National League, you know what? The Mets could do it. The Phillies, the Cubs, and now the Brewers, right? I mean, who thought the Brewers would be battling for that division? So It's going to be an interesting year this year in the playoffs.
Yeah,
we'll
me
have fun
personally,
watching you from the sidelines. Yeah.
Yeah, on the AL trade deadline, we had a database on. He covered the Tigers, and the biggest thing that I did not want to see in the American League was the Tigers going for Suarez and Merrill Kelly, or Suarez and Zach Gallen, because that's just the last piece they really need. Overall, third baseman and another starting pitcher to go with Skubal, like that's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, agree. That's what I mean.
So.
Do they take a chance now? And that's the other thing with Skubal, right? He's got one more year left on his contract. Are they going to sign him before he hits free agency? Because once he hits free agency, it's going to come down to the Mets, the Dodgers, maybe the Yankees, right? I mean, other than that, maybe Texas, because they have the no state tax. Maybe they could up their offer a little bit. But Skubal, if they don't get him signed, he's as good as gone in Detroit. I'm sorry. I know Detroit's got money, but they don't got LA money, and they don't got Cohen money either.
Well, and that's the thing. We talked about with the Dodgers last night with Built for LA, and it's like, okay, we were talking about the Japanese guy that possibly could come over this year, but probably next year. But looking at him, and they're like, will the Dodgers go after him? We got to see what the CBA looks like first. Like,
that's right, one more year, right?
Yeah,
We've been talking
and,
about it,
and and they're talking about, there could be a possible salary cap. I personally think there's got to be a salary floor first.
Yeah.
Like you got to spend so much money at least per season.
Great.
Before we talk about a salary cap. But if they do anything like a salary cap, what does that look like? For the owners like the Mets.
Right.
Yeah. Right. It's
And
how about the Dodgers with all the money they're pushing forward with Ohtani and Mookie Betts?
Right.
All these guys got. Where is that gonna? How is that gonna work out in a salary cap? Right. So it's
it's insane how much the Dodger players are getting paid. It's crazy, but like you said, LA money is it's unlimited. So I guess we're able to sign anyone we want. So
exactly.
So if it comes down to that point, then we're most likely gonna get that Japanese player, just because the president that we have as Dodgers Japanese, just like Yamamoto, Shohei, Kim now. But it just all comes down to the salary that they offer him, but we'll see.
So, Leah, Autumn, what are you guys thinking? With the upcoming CBA, like let's talk about that and get everybody's opinion so far. What will baseball look like after that, possibly, and what will this affect the big market teams more than the small market teams?
Autumn.
Yeah, I think it will, but at the same time, I don't, because I've seen it in the other professional sports. All the other professional sports have, salary caps. So it's like you still see the big market teams are able to compete and win every year in other, leagues. So it feels like it won't affect them too bad. But if there are certain caps, obviously, like, New York and LA are going to be the ones that are looked at the most because they do spend the most money. So, I want to say that will be helpful for the smaller market teams too, but at the same time, it really just all depends on the owners, because some of the owners just don't want to spend no matter what. Like, it doesn't, so.
And then some overspend on not a lot of production. So,
yeah. So, yeah.
Don, what are your thoughts?
I don't really think it comes down to a salary cap necessarily in terms of being able to put a competitive team on the field. You look at the Rays over the years, the Brewers, the Marlins now are on the right track. Other teams, Cleveland's been, competitive for years. So I don't know that it would impact many of the teams. Of course, it would keep the Dodgers, the Mets, the Yankees, the Red Sox. They'd have a certain limit on how high they could go. So that might make it more attractive for the other teams to be able to get some of the, higher end free agents. But I don't think it would change, at the end of the year when you look at the standings. I don't think it would really change much.
Okay. Ethan?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what I said before. Just if you spend money and you get the right players and, build like a good team after trade deadline, which that can add on to this team we have right now, then I'm more than confident to repeat on another title.
Conrado?
Yeah, I mean, I largely agree with everybody about their thoughts about a potential, like the impact of a reworked CBA. I find that as a big, I cover a lot of basketball, a lot of NBA. I feel that the NBA and the MLB are kind of borrowing elements of their respective CBAs, almost to the point where they're quickly becoming almost the same. I think I'm still with Autumn. I think that the CBA being reworked will still benefit like the big market teams, the same ones that we've discussed, only in the sense that I think we're really beginning to see kind of like the mid-tier contracts, like the middle class of the MLB kind of being phased out. You're seeing either like these super like mega max deals or like pretty much minimum, or, you're still on your rookie deal. And that if you have the ability to kind of be able to move money as the Dodgers have done, say creatively, and you can squeeze in that extra max contract, even if you think you're not getting the full value of that contract. Still, it takes away one, upper tier player away from another team or another contender. I could still see that happening, though. I do agree with Don. I don't think that's necessarily the only way to build a team. As we've said throughout the course of the show, you see how many people are kind of, while I agree with Chris that there is opportunity for teams to make this year their year to go all in, there are the other teams that truly, I think they're under the understanding from both, the front office ownership and coaching staff that our window is maybe like 2 years from now, and they're planning accordingly. So I don't think they'll necessarily be impacted immediately by any of these CBA revisions.
Yeah. In my opinion, I think this is the year of either the Tigers go all in or Houston goes all in. Like, the American League is so bad. Our division is so bad.
Yep.
That anybody could end up winning it, except for Baltimore. But it's just they're just so bad. Overall, the American League is horrendous. So, but Chris, what are your thoughts on the CBA?
Yeah, it's going to get ugly, after the 2026 season. Me and Rob have been discussing it a few times already, because if the owners really want that salary cap, the players are totally against it. But you know what? They're going to push hard for it. And I think the only way they're going to get it is if they give them the salary cap floor, right? Because I don't know how else the players are going to okay this. And I don't know how teams like the Dodgers are going to work, how are they going to work in those, the Shohei Ohtani payments that they're going to be coming up in in whatever, 10 years down the line. How's that going to fit into it? Are they going to grandfather that in somehow and, only count a certain percentage of it? Or I don't know. It's going to be an interesting off season after the 2026 season. I just hope we don't lose a lot of the 2027 season, because of the work stoppage, because that's coming. The work stoppage, it's going to happen. I just hope it's not that bad where we're missing, half a season or a quarter of the season. That would be bad. But I'm curious how it's going to end up, right? Because I don't know how they're going to figure this out with the cap and, like I said, with these deferred payments. I have no idea, but that's obviously ahead of too high above our pay rate, right? So we'll see how these guys figure it out.
And last but not least, Rob.
Well, like Chris said, we've been talking about this a lot on our show. The cap and the floor. We feel there probably should be a floor because teams like the Pittsburgh Pirates, they pocket the revenue sharing. They don't spend money. And then they have players like Paul Skeens and, they have one of the most beautiful ballparks in Major League Baseball. They can't fill it because they're not paying players. They let players go. So something has to be done. Yes. But the Players Association, they're not going to, they don't want a salary cap unless they get a lot back. I think there's probably going to be a long lockout, and we don't want to see that. But I just think there's going to be a lockout after next season, and it's going to be a mess. There's going to be a work stoppage, and like Chris said, I hope that it's not, half the season. I hope that they could figure something out. But we know how it goes. Yeah, he's back. So that's how I feel. Let's hope that there isn't a work stoppage. And what Chris said real quick about the deferred money, the deferred payments, how are they going to work that in? I think they're going to have to grandfather it in because the Dodgers have a lot of money going out in the future. Ohtani alone, so they have to take that into consideration. They're going to have to do something about that. So I think, guys, unfortunately, we're in for a work stoppage, and it might be a long one.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the way, it's looking overall. Unless something miraculous happens, but it's not looking very well. So let's quick go around and get some final thoughts on the trade deadline coming up. Do you think there's going to be that one trade that you do not see coming at all at the trade deadline? Kind of like we were blindsided and Conrado got the a phenomenal Devers deal. Now, I'm not saying something that big of a name, but do you guys think that there's going to be that one trade where no one's seen it coming? There's not the name wasn't floated out there at all. Let's start with you, Robin. Go around.
Yeah, I think. Listen, who wouldn't love to see that? We love shocking trades and stuff where we have to say, "Man, I did not see that coming." But who is it going to be? I have no idea. It's the way things are going now. We have to give it another week or so before we know who's going to be the true buyers and who's sellers. But I think it could happen. I don't know how. I don't know who it's going to be. But if it happens, it's always fun and something to talk about.
Chris?
Yeah. I think absolutely. There's always a name that we don't talk about that pops up and he's traded, right? And sometimes it's that big move that makes that big of a difference for that team, to maybe make it to the World Series. So I see it happening like today. O'Neal Cruz's name was popping up, right, for Pittsburgh. That a lot of teams are looking into him possibly in a trade. I can't see it happening, but at this point, anything is possible. So, if the price is right, I'm sure a team will move their star player if it's that big of a deal. Like if a Juan Soto type deal comes around for a player, how can a team say no to that? Because they see what the Nationals have now. They have that core of 4 or 5 guys that are really good players, right? So I'm going to say, yeah, a player is going to get moved that we haven't heard about yet, or we're not expecting to be moved.
Chris, I'm going to say it right here. I said it 2 years ago, and everybody laughed at me. But I think it's more realistic this year. Nolan Arenado to the Yankees.
I don't know. They were trying to give him to us this offseason, but that contract is scary, right? I think he's got 2 more years left on his deal. And you could tell his numbers are just going down, right? I mean, he's like 240 this year, 10 home runs. He's still a great fielder, but he's at the age where it's just going to keep continuing to go down. And unless the Cardinals pay like 90%, like most of that contract, I really don't think. 2 years ago, I could have seen it happening. Now, I'm really not sure. Unless the Yankees get desperate, which it is possible. Cashman could do something like that. But I'm going to say no. That's my guess.
2 years ago, I said it, and everybody laughed at me, and I'm like, that's just my prediction, my one wacky thing.
Yeah.
Conrado, what about you?
I don't have any specific name, but I wonder if in this next week we see teams being a little bit more open and willing to trade within the division. Especially teams that are all within the playoff hunt. I bring that up because the same names that were there, I think Rick, you and I talked about this before the Devers trade went down. There were all these reports that the Giants and the Diamondbacks had some exploratory talks. And I'm like, whoa, same division and everything like that, both in playoff hunt. Then you see Dylan Cease's name come up. As Ethan said, I mean, the Dodgers have had their well-documented, it's almost like an ER at this point, right? Triage with their pitching staff. Would the Padres be willing to? I know that at one point the Giants had interest in Cease. Would they really be willing to trade with each other? Because, Eugenio Suarez at one point was connected to the Giants before the Devers trade. You know what I'm saying? What really is this new mindset, especially with a lot of these teams having new front offices, maybe you're a little bit more open, right? You really want to just help yourself as opposed to we want to prevent you from doing well. So I'm really looking, and that's not just for the NL West. Those are for other divisions too. As you said, you look in the AL, there's so many, they're just clustered, and you could really see hey, I swap this, helps you, but it also helps me. I'll really wonder who's really willing to play ball. No pun intended.
Okay. Leah, Autumn, what
Well,
about you guys?
This is the shape that we're in right now. In the middle of a game a couple weeks ago, Austin Riley just disappeared and the entire fan base melted down. Trade talk happening. And I'm like, what? Stop. What? Because we had called somebody up from Gwinnett that was a third baseman. Turns out he just had some sort of stomach issue. But the freak out that happened over this 4 minutes of Austin Riley being MIA, I don't know. We're never going to get anything right now, at least, that was as great as getting Olsen and Murphy from the A's. That was probably our epic contract over the past few years that really has paid off. But I don't know. I don't see us getting anything.
Oh, no, we're not getting anyone. No, not at all. No.
Okay.
Alex does not like to spend money at all, and I don't know. It might be rebuild time.
Ethan, what about you?
Yeah, for the Dodgers, I as you guys said, we're big time buyers on the trade deadline market, as y'all know. Seeing Rafael Devers getting dealt by to the Giants, saying that, oh wow, anything can happen now. So, in one little trade, something can happen big. Just look out for that big trade. Hopefully, maybe for the Dodgers. But if something does happen, maybe the Angels will finally deal Mike Trout. But I don't think that'll happen, honestly, just because how committed he is with the Angels. But we'll see. I mean, just a lot of big guys out there that can possibly trade to the Dodgers or elsewhere too. And also Kyle Tucker's another one that I was talking about too. So we'll see.
Here we go, Ethan. Brian Reynolds, you are a Dodger.
I like that. I like that. But if we do get
I do think the Dodgers are on his short list of no trade clause.
Right. Okay.
Somebody reported that he wanted to stay. He actually really wants to stay in Pittsburgh, shockingly. But he wants to stay. I think he's from Tennessee, I think, or that's where his family is, or something. So he wants to stay somewhat there. So think of him for a team, maybe Chicago, something. Northeast.
I was saying there's plenty of AAA teams down around Tennessee, or if he wants to get demoted.
Maybe. Hey.
Well, I mean, if he's trying to win, then come down to LA, man.
There you go.
It's a place to be and place to win. So
exactly.
So
all we have to do is say wants to stay in Atlanta, and then they're gone. So
you never know. Money talks. We know the
money
rest
talks
of that, right?
business, man. Yep.
Yeah. Don, what about you?
I could see the Reds being involved in a surprising blockbuster trade because of where the Braves are right now, looking to rebuild. Ronald Acuna becoming available, and the Reds being all in on that. And don't laugh.
I knew they wouldn't like that.
Don't laugh about that one, but I think the Reds could, give the Braves exactly what they want. They could give them two pitchers. They could say, take your pick, Andrew Abbott, Nick Lodolo for the starters, and then just say, out of our top 5 prospects, pick 3. And I think it would be good for the Braves. It would be good for the Reds. That would be a name that nobody's talking about with Acuna, that I think there'll be some inquiries as they get close to the deadline. And I think if the Braves got the right offer, they'd move him.
There's been a lot of talk just over this season about Acuna, and everybody wondering if he's going to look towards the Mets, if he wants to play with his brother, if he wants to play with Lindor, if he wants to play with Soto. They're all great friends. He could get paid more, but I feel like sometimes that's all we've got.
Are the Braves going to trade him to the? No way are they going to.
They wouldn't trade him to the Mets, but I think if he became available, I could see a surprise. Like we're talking about somebody that nobody's expecting, and some kind of a surprise blockbuster kind of trade. I think that's the player that you could see that happening with, that nobody's talking about right now.
Okay. So, well, guys, I had a blast thank you for coming on and doing this.
Thank you for having us.
Next year, we are talking. My goal is next year. Don's the only one that's an original from 3 years ago. It's grown every year since. So first year it was like what? It was like maybe 5 of us, and most of us were it was the NL Central. Last year we had so many people, we had to split it AL NL. Now this year we had so many National League, we had to do it in 2 hours. So next year my goal personally is to have like Monday, bam, AL East, Tuesday, NL East, and break it down to the division, so that way you guys can get to know each other, and we can talk interdivision each time. So that is my goal next year. If you guys can help out, we are still looking for. I got an ass guy. He was on here, Leah.
Yes, I saw that
yes.
finally. I've been begging Nats people. Like, it's just, they've all been shy.
I'm looking for Cardinals and the Rays. I have somebody that covers Oakland, for crying out loud.
Wow.
Like really. But I can't find anybody that covers the Cardinals.
I might be able to help you with that.
I know someone that maybe want to cover the Cardinals, but not sure if he'll be able to do it. But I'll hit him up and let you know.
Yeah, I'll do the same and let you know.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Make sure you follow us on our YouTube channel at BSEN617, down below our man Conrado, below Autumn and Don. If you're on Twitter, follow us at Pesky_podcast and at BSEN_617. This is going to drop tomorrow on all major platforms: iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iTunes. Yes, I got them all. I can never remember one of them. But guys, it's been a blast. Thank you for being a part of this. For Don, for Autumn, for Ethan, for Leah, for Conrado, for Chris, for Rob, and myself, thanks for stopping by the Pesky Podcast.
I'm gonna tell you a story.